Good evening, dear listeners, and welcome back to another chilling episode of our scary stories. As the darkness of night draws in and the faint whispers of the unknown tickle the edge of your consciousness, we invite you to journey with us. Today, we venture into the secluded hamlet of Thornhill, a place where innocent laughter once echoed, but now only silence reigns. We delve into the haunting enigma of Doll Hollow, where the ragged dolls swing from the gnarled branches of a cursed oak, a chilling dance of forgotten souls. Are you ready to venture into the shadows, to uncover the dread that lurks in the heart of the Hollow? Then gather your courage, dear listeners, as we weave you into the narrative of the hanging dolls of the Hollow. In the heart of the sprawling Appalachian wilderness, shrouded in the riddles of ancient folklore, lay the secluded hamlet of Thornhill. Untouched by the march of time, Thornhill was cradled in an eerie quiet, nestled between hushed creeks and hauntingly serene hillsides. At twilight, when shadows stretched and mingled with the approaching darkness, an unsettling melody of hoot owls filled the air, making the isolation tangible. The heart of Thornhill hid an enigma, a hollow whispered about in hushed tones, christened Doll Hollow. It was home to a gargantuan, gnarled oak, ancient and forbidding. Its twisted branches, bereft of leaves, reached out like skeletal fingers clutching at the ether. From these lifeless branches hung the objects of local dread, ragged dolls. Their empty eye sockets and ghostly pallor stared into the abyss, silent sentinels keeping their vigil. Our protagonist, Clara, was a keen folklorist, known for her relentless curiosity and an intuitive understanding of the supernatural. With a halo of fiery curls and emerald eyes, she was as much a paradox as the tales she chronicled. The legends of Doll Hollow had lured Clara to Thornhill, igniting her resolve to unweave its secrets. Clara's first evening in Thornhill unfolded in Mrs. Harker's Inn, a quaint establishment with its own quaint keeper. Mrs. Harker was a plump, sprightly woman with her hair pulled into a neat bun, her eyes carrying years of tales she'd tell anyone willing to lend an ear. In the dimly lit common room, by the warmth of the crackling hearth, Clara found herself ensnared in a huddle of locals, listening to whispered tales of the cursed Hollow. Each story etched an image more terrifying than the last, of the deranged toymaker, Samuel Creedy, and his ghastly creation. Creedy was as much a part of Thornhill as the hills themselves, said the grizzled blacksmith, his voice as worn as his leathery face. His sorrow drove him mad, and his madness drove him too. To them dolls, each night you can hear them weep. Echoes of the lost, they say, whispered Mrs. Harker, her voice shaking with a concoction of fear and sorrow. Clara felt a chill ripple down her spine, not of fear, but of anticipation. The whispering wind seemed to carry the spectral cries from the hollow, weaving an auditory tapestry of horror and melancholy. The scent of damp earth and aged wood from the inn mixed with the smell of fear hanging heavy in the air, creating an unnerving ambience. Doll Hollow was calling out to Clara, and she was ready to answer. Her quest had begun. The morning dawned over Thornhill, washing the shadows of the night away. Clara set out, fortified by a hearty breakfast prepared by Mrs. Harker, towards the modest village library. Housed in a quaint stone building that had seen better days, the library, much like Thornhill itself, was an embodiment of forgotten yesteryears. With her heart pounding in anticipation, Clara pushed open the creaking wooden door. A comforting mustiness of old books enveloped her. As she breathed in the aroma of yellowed pages and faded ink, she felt a surge of familiar excitement. The sight of towering wooden shelves crammed with volumes of local history and folklore drew her in, her emerald eyes gleaming with curiosity. Hours turned into fleeting moments as Clara immersed herself in the archives, her fingers tracing over the faded manuscripts that held tales of Samuel Creedy. Born and raised in Thornhill, Creedy was a master toymaker, beloved by all for his delightful creations. The joy in his life was his young daughter, who he adored more than anything. However, tragedy struck when his daughter perished in a winter storm. Overwhelmed with grief, Creedy's mind began to unravel. The once cheerful toymaker withdrew from the world, becoming a recluse. His toys took a ghastly turn, morphing from sources of joy to objects of terror. The once beloved artisan had transformed into the deranged toymaker of Thornhill's dreaded folklore. Creedy turned to the occult in a desperate attempt to communicate with his deceased child. He crafted dolls as innocent as the children they were meant to represent, but hidden within them were intricate runes and symbols of powerful old magic. The toymaker hung these dolls from the ancient oak in the hollow, now known as Doll Hollow, where it was believed the veil between this world and the next was at its thinnest. As the sun set, Clara closed the final archive, her mind swirling with the tragic tale of the Toymaker. The whispers of the past hung in the air, painting a poignant picture of loss and desperation. Clara could almost taste the saltiness of the Toymaker's tears in the air, hear the heart-wrenching pleas in the silence of the library. She empathized with Creedy's sorrow, his love for his child resonating with her own memories of her deceased mother. Outside, as the wind rustled through the trees, Clara thought she could hear the faintest whimper of a child, carried across the wind from the direction of Doll Hollow. The sound sent a shiver running down her spine, a chilling affirmation of the grim task that lay ahead. But Clara was resolute. The children's spirits needed to be freed, and she was the only one who could help. As the day surrendered to the night, Clara readied herself for her first visit to Doll Hollow. Morning broke over Thornhill, the timid sun peeking over the horizon and casting an amber hue on the serene landscape. With a nod of anticipation in her stomach, Clara made her way towards Doll Hollow. The forest path was a tangled weave of roots and brambles, the trees leaning over like silent sentinels, their whispering leaves rustling an eerie symphony. As Clara ventured deeper into the hollow, the atmosphere changed, growing dense with an unseen force. The light dimmed, casting long shadows that danced and twirled around her, creating an illusion of movement in the corners of her eyes. The air turned colder, and a faint smell of damp earth and decaying leaves filled her nostrils, reminiscent of a long-forgotten burial ground. Then she saw it, the sinister oak. Its vastness was intimidating, its gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal arms. The wind rustled through the tree, making the dolls sway gently, a morbid ballet that chilled her to the bone. Each doll was unique, crafted with a mastery that hinted at Creedy's lost sanity. Their empty eye sockets, void of light and life, bore into Clara, their gazes almost pleading. The silence around the tree was profound, broken only by the soft creaking of the dolls swaying in the breeze. Suddenly, Clara felt a cold rush of air sweep past her, sending an involuntary shiver through her spine. A sense of sorrow washed over her, so profound that it nearly brought her to her knees. The sorrow wasn't hers, it was an echo of the countless lost souls bound to the dolls, a shared despair that clawed at her heart. Then a whisper, a soft, barely audible whimper that seemed to come from the dolls. Clara strained her ears, her breath hitching in her throat as a word formed from the whisper, "Help." In that instant, Clara's doubts evaporated, replaced by a newfound resolve. She wasn't just dealing with stories. These were the vestiges of lost children, their voices crying out from a place of perpetual torment. Their pain was as real as the ancient oak that towered over her, the ground under her feet, the fear creeping into her heart. As Clara turned to leave, a single tear traced its path down her cheek. The despairing whispers of the trapped souls echoed in her ears, a chilling serenade that promised sleepless nights. Yet she was undeterred. Clara had peered into the heart of Doll Hollow, experienced the torment of the trapped souls, and it only steeled her resolve. Tomorrow, she would delve into Creedy's dark arts, the haunting symphony of the Hollow serving as a stark reminder of what was at stake. The light of the new dawn painted a golden edge on the day as Clara returned to the old library. The ominous whispers from Doll Hollow echoed in her mind, reinforcing the reality of her task. The day's work was clear, unearth the intricate occult practices that Samuel Creedy had woven into his creations. The cryptic rituals that had imprisoned innocent souls would also provide the key to their release. The library's musty interior was a stark contrast to the fresh morning air, yet its trove of forgotten knowledge was irresistible to Clara. The manuscripts of Samuel Creedy were her target. Detailed sketches of dolls, annotated with strange symbols and cryptic writings, filled the pages. In the faded drawings, the dolls, originally designed to bring joy, took a darker form. Clara's eyes traced the eerie symbols, each a testament to Creedy's slow descent into madness. She could feel the Toymaker's desperation seeping from the parched pages, the symbols a grim testament to his spiraling despair. Through hours of painstaking research, Clara began to comprehend the twisted ritual Creedy had constructed. It was a haunting symphony of lunar alignment, intricate symbols, and whispered incantations that had ensnared the spirits. It was more than an act of occultism. It was a desperate father's heartbreaking attempt to reach his child, even if it meant tearing open the veil between realms. The realization of the ritual's complexity was daunting. Yet, as the hours slipped away, a glimmer of hope sparked in Clara's heart. To reverse the entrapment, she would have to perform a counter-ritual on the same lunar alignment when the spirits were first trapped. A sense of urgency swept over her as she realized the next such alignment was merely days away. She could almost smell the fear and anticipation mingling with the library's old book scent. Clara's determination solidified with this new knowledge. The spectral children of Doll Hollow had waited for decades for their liberation. She could not and would not fail them. As twilight descended on Thornhill, Clara left the library, her mind buzzing with the remnants of dark magic, lunar cycles, and the overwhelming desperation of a broken father. The task was monumental, but the ethereal cries of the children that filled her dreams left her with no doubts. She was their only beacon of hope in the all-consuming darkness. Sunrise bathed Thornhill in a soft, golden hue as Clara embarked on the next stage of her quest, the gathering of the elements. The counter-ritual required specific ingredients, each possessing an uncanny significance within the realm of the occult. The list was a testament to Samuel Creedy's unflinching dedication towards his cause: a petrified wood chip from the oak itself, creek water under moonlight, and the feather of an owl, the night's silent observer. Her first destination was the cursed oak. As she approached, the still air of the morning became dense, the silence broken only by the hushed whispers of the forest. Clara reached out, her fingers brushing against the ancient bark. The texture, rough and pitted with the memories of countless years, sent a cold shudder through her hand. With a swift movement, she procured a small chip, its age apparent in its stony hardness. Next was the water from the nearby creek, known for its ethereal glow under the moon's gaze. The creek was a serene brook by day, its water glistening in the sunlight as it danced over pebbles and through crevices. She filled a small vial, its significance magnifying in the moon's absence. The water had to be sanctified under the moonlight, a task for the coming night. The final element was the most challenging, an owl feather. Owls were abundant in the Appalachian wild, their nocturnal hoots a haunting lullaby to Thornhill. But finding a fallen feather was a game of chance and patience. Throughout the day, Clara roamed the hollow, her emerald eyes scanning the undergrowth. The soft rustle of the leaves underfoot, the distant song of a mockingbird, the mild fragrance of wildflowers carried on the breeze, everything about the forest was deceivingly tranquil. As night fell, she spotted a small, tawny feather nestled amongst the foliage. Picking it up, she felt the soft bristles against her skin, a silent testament to the owl's nocturnal vigils. Her collection was complete. Exhaustion swept over Clara as she returned to the inn. Yet her spirits were high. Each element was a piece of the puzzle, a step closer to freeing the trapped spirits. As she drifted into a restless sleep, her dreams were filled with silent dolls and a moon casting its silvery glow on a solitary creek, a symphony of the coming night's critical task. In the depths of Thornhill's night, when the moon reigned supreme in the star-studded sky, Clara was beset with a fresh wave of chilling encounters. The silent corridors of her dreams now echoed with whispers and faint cries, the ethereal pleas of the trapped children reaching out to her. Their voices, innocent yet tinged with a fear that belied their tender years, became her nightly serenade. Soft murmurings filled her ears, painting vivid images of spectral children bound within their inanimate prisons. She could feel their desperation, their hopes, their dreams, all rendered mute in the face of the cruel twist of fate. Waking up to the pale morning light, Clara's heart ached for the tormented spirits. A heavy silence loomed over her, the echoes of the spectral whispers still lingering in the air. The distinct smell of early morning dew and the soft rustling of leaves outside her window offered little comfort. Her once cozy room now seemed to reverberate with an unseen energy, an invisible tension that was only growing with each passing day. A profound understanding settled in Clara's heart. The haunting cries were more than mere echoes from the other side. They were a testament to the children's trust in her, their hopes pinned on her promise of freedom. With each passing day, the supernatural activities around the hollow grew more intense. The wind carried the faint rustle of leaves, the doll's silent movements, and the earthy scent of the ancient oak, reminding Clara of her commitment. Her presence was stirring the spirits, their fear of the unknown making them more restless. Their anxiety mirrored Clara's own trepidation. But amongst the cacophony, a certain calm resolve enveloped her. Clara knew she was the children's only hope, and she wouldn't let her fear deter her. Summoning her strength, she made a brave decision. That evening, Clara ventured to the hollow and addressed the spirits, her voice trembling but resolute. "I know you're afraid, just as I am. But you have my word, I will free you from this curse. Trust me." As she retreated under the watchful gaze of the moon, a strange peace descended over the hollow. The spectral whispers quieted, a resounding silence filling the air. The spirits had heard Clara, and they believed in her. It was the calm before the storm, the peaceful prelude to the coming struggle. And Clara was ready. The calm that had descended over Thornhill was disrupted by the arrival of a new figure. This was Zachary, a rugged and resolute hunter known for his solitary lifestyle. His unexpected return to Thornhill stirred up unease. Many saw his presence as a bad omen, and true to Thornhill's apprehension, he held a deep-seated hostility towards Clara and her meddling with the Hollow. Zachary had left Thornhill after a chilling encounter with the dolls in his youth. His hardened exterior hid a terrified boy who had once met the gaze of the lifeless dolls. However, upon hearing of Clara's attempts to pacify the Hollow, he felt a strange pull towards the village. He returned, vowing to halt Clara's reckless endeavor. Confronting Clara outside Mrs. Harker's inn, Zachary's icy blue eyes met Clara's fiery gaze. "Leave the Hollow alone, Missy," he warned, his voice gruff. "Some things are best left untouched." But Clara was not to be deterred. Standing firm, she retorted, "I cannot ignore their cries, Zachary. They deserve freedom, and I aim to give it to them." Their confrontation was cut short when an eerie wind swept through the village, carrying a terrifying wail that made everyone shudder. A chilling aura descended, a grim reminder of the Hollow's curse. For the first time, Zachary heard the ethereal whispers Clara spoke of, haunting pleas for salvation, the chilling voices of the trapped spirits. Suddenly, his past fears seemed trivial against the horror the spirits were enduring. The spectral cries pierced through his tough exterior, reaching the frightened boy within. In that moment, Zachary felt a wave of sympathy for Clara's mission. The dread he once held was replaced by an intense desire to aid Clara. From a hostile stranger, Zachary became an unlikely ally. He offered Clara his knowledge of Thornhill's wilderness and his protective presence for her nightly visits to the Hollow. United by their haunting pasts and a shared cause, they stood against the shadow of the Hollow, a beacon of hope for the tormented spirits. Their alliance marked the dawn of a new chapter in the haunting tale of Doll Hollow. The day of the lunar alignment dawned over Thornhill, casting a somber shadow over the village. The alignment was a rare celestial event where the moon would hold its full sway over the earth, a powerful moment when the veil between realms was at its thinnest. Under the vast evening sky, Clara and Zachary embarked on their mission. The air was charged with anticipation as they made their way towards the Hollow. The eerie silence was a sharp contrast to the earlier whispering winds, the dolls hanging still as if in somber anticipation of the events to unfold. By the creek, under the gaze of the glowing moon, Clara started the purification of the water. She poured it into a small silver basin, reciting the incantations she'd learned from Creedy's manuscripts. The clear water shimmered under the moonlight, the reflected light casting an otherworldly glow around Clara and Zachary. A quiet energy hummed in the air, the first thread of connection between the two realms. Next, Clara placed the petrified wood chip and the owl feather by the basin. The elements, mere mundane objects by daylight, now pulsated with an unseen energy drawn to the cosmic power of the alignment. Clara began the ritual, her voice echoing through the Hollow, amplified by the clear night air. The incantations, cryptic and haunting, seemed to dance on the wind, wrapping around the gnarled branches of the oak, weaving their way through the lifeless dolls. A sudden gust of wind swept through the Hollow, rustling the dolls, making them sway violently. The ground beneath them trembled, and a faint, eerie glow began to emanate from the dolls. The trapped spirits were awakening, their spectral forms flickering like ghostly flames within their doll vessels. A fear greater than any they had experienced before gripped Clara and Zachary. But as the ghastly display unfolded before them, they felt a sense of awe. This was it, the night of liberation, and they were in the eye of the storm. As Clara and Zachary beheld the spectral display, the ritual's potency pulled Clara into a realm unseen by ordinary eyes, the astral plane. The world around her blurred and morphed into a hazy version of the Hollow, where the eerie glow of the dolls pulsed brighter, their ethereal forms more defined. Suddenly, she was not alone. From the twisted oak emerged a terrifying manifestation, a dark entity born from Creedy's overwhelming guilt and despair. It was not merely a specter, but an embodiment of the Toymaker's torment, guarding the trapped spirits with a ferocious determination. Clara, confronted with the monstrous entity, felt a surge of fear, but she held her ground. Drawing from her knowledge and courage, she addressed the manifestation, her voice steady, "We mean no harm." We're here to free the children, to end their suffering. The entity recoiled, its form flickering. Clara pressed on, her words filled with the sincerity of her mission. As she spoke, she noticed a weaker light separate from the others, the spirit of Creedy's own child. Summoning all her courage, she reached out to the child. Your father did this out of love, out of desperation. But it's time to let go. Help us pacify him. A resonating silence followed. Then, slowly, the spirit moved forward, its light intertwining with the dark manifestation. A burst of brilliant light filled the astral plane, followed by an echoing calm. The entity had been pacified, its form dissolving into a cascade of soft lights that fluttered around the child's spirit like fireflies. Clara, along with the spirits, had overcome the astral guardian, a significant step towards their liberation. As she returned to the earthly realm, she realized the hardest part of their journey was over. Now, all that remained was to guide the spirits towards the light of freedom. The daunting task left her with a sense of trepidation, yet the sight of the quieting hollow filled her with a newfound hope. The liberation of the spirits was within their grasp. The final act of the counter-ritual commenced. Clara stood beneath the now calm oak, its eerie silence belying the whirlwind of events that had just transpired. Zachary watched anxiously as Clara raised her arms towards the full moon, its silver radiance bathing the hollow in a serene glow. With a clear, resonant voice, Clara recited the final incantation. The words, imbued with the energy of the lunar alignment in her unyielding will, reverberated around the hollow, igniting the final spark needed for the spirit's liberation. As the last word fell from Clara's lips, an ethereal wind rose, whispering through the leaves and caressing the dolls. One by one, they began to glow, their light growing brighter until it was nearly blinding. Then, with a sound like a soft sigh, the lights lifted from the dolls, their spectral forms free at last. In the heart of the night, a spectacle of shimmering lights danced around the hollow, their movements full of an innocence and joy long forgotten. They fluttered around Clara and Zachary, their luminous forms casting a soft glow on their awestruck faces. A moment of shared peace and victory descended upon them as the spirits expressed their silent gratitude. As the first light of dawn started to peek over the horizon, the freed spirits ascended towards the sky, disappearing into the growing light. The dolls, now lifeless, started to fall from the branches of the oak, their role as spectral prisons finally at an end. Clara and Zachary stood in silence, watching the last of the dolls fall. The haunting echo of Doll Hollow was no more, replaced by a new dawn, filled with peace and tranquility. The two parted ways, forever bonded by their shared experience. Clara left Thornhill, her heart lighter, carrying the victory of her mission, and the memories of the souls she'd helped set free. Thornhill returned to its peaceful ways, forever changed. The once sinister oak in the hollow now stood as a symbol of liberation, its legacy of sorrow replaced with a tale of hope. The hanging dolls of the hollow were no more, their memory fading into the echoes of a past Thornhill would never forget. And so, dear listeners, we've emerged from the eerie depths of Doll Hollow, forever touched by the spectral echoes of the children who found their freedom in the breaking dawn. As we part ways tonight, remember, the tales of our scary stories are not merely whispers in the dark. They are a testament to the lurking dread and the glimmers of hope that coexist in our world. Until we meet again, hold on to your courage, dear listeners. The shadows hold many more tales to tell. Good night and sweet dreams, for the truest of horrors are the ones we must face when we're wide awake. This is our Scary Stories signing off for tonight.